Once you are self-aware, you must make a change.
Welcome to the Millionaire Woman Show, where we'll be discussing leadership, business, human potential, inspiring you to live rich from the inside out. Unlock your creativity, stretch out of your comfort zone, break through your barriers, take inspired action, and achieve epic results. Now here's your host, 3-time best-selling author, speaker, and certified executive coach, Debra Kasowski.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Millionaire Woman Show. I'm your host, Debra Kasowski, and I'm super excited that you're here. Today we're going to talk about taking time to recognize your growth. Now, all too often we get caught up in the everyday busyness, and believe me, you know that buzzword busy, it's for bees, right? Busy as a bee. People are using it so much and they think they're using it interchangeably with productive, and they're not. It is just the buzzword to be avoiding many other things. So I want to focus today on really focusing in on your personal growth. Now, you're not the same person you were 2 days ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, and you are continuously evolving. Life is a lifelong journey, a process of evolution. Now, you may be in the midst of things thinking, you know what, Deb, I hear what you're saying, but when I'm in the midst of things and, just enmeshed in everything around me, it's hard to see my growth because I'll hit an obstacle or something comes up and ask myself, I don't know if I can do this. It's getting really hard, and maybe I don't have what it takes. That might be the case. And, sometimes when you hear those things, when you're enmeshed in things, when things get tough, you forget how far you've already come. Now, I'm here today to get you to start shifting your focus to being a lack of that scarcity mindset, thinking that you're not good enough when you already have come so far, yet you don't take the opportunity to see just how far you've gotten. Okay. So granted, maybe you've just gotten started on a project or goal that you're in. You might not be seeing some of the results that you want coming forward for you. You might even be questioning if you're on the right track. Now, you need to give it a little bit of time, but I can guarantee you with consistency, even the smallest increments, they build up. Be patient with yourself, because it is consistency and discipline that's built into your practice, those habits that are really going to get you going. Now, if you've been going at it for a while and you're still not getting the results that you want, I want you to take a step back and think about maybe, just maybe, you're hanging on to a belief that could be holding you back. You're having some resistance and you're wondering why you are not moving in the direction as you want. But as you know, a belief is formed of thoughts that you've ruminated on and you've played on, and it becomes a reality to you. Now, if you want to change some of those thoughts, if you want to change that belief, you got to change the thought that came from what you ruminate around, because it affects how you act and the actions that you go after. Now, I want you to take a moment and think, there are many things that you're already proficient at. Those things that, as simple as driving a car or riding a bike. Do you remember when you first drove a car? Wasn't it awkward? You weren't the expert that you got behind the wheel and you started driving and heading in the direction that you wanted. No, you probably had white knuckle syndrome. You might have taken some of the widest left or right hand turns in your life, and adjusting to the pedal, going 20 below the speed limit in a country town that the speed limit's probably 50 in certain sections and you're going 20. And some people might think you're the Sunday driver. But that's okay. You were learning. Now, if you learned how to drive a stick or a standard like I did at one point, it was terrifying. And I have to tell you, that experience was frightening, because I remember when we bought the car, and it was a Honda Civic, 4-door stick, and I was learning how to drive it because I did not know how to drive one. And the following morning, I had woken up thinking, oh my God, this is one of the biggest mistakes that we've ever made. Because I'm going to crash. I'm going to go down into the parkade at where I was working, and that's going to be the end. That'll be the end of the car. It'll be the end of me. And I hadn't practiced driving in a 2-week period, and I got well, I taught you things. You didn't learn anything? Did you forget everything I taught you in 2 weeks? So I went and kissed my children, and I said, you know what? This is just in case I don't come back, because I was heading into that parkade for the first time after buying the car. And I stalled only once on the way, but it was such a victory because people reminded me, Deb, there is a break. Yeah, I get it. But when you're a new learner, everything seems scary. It can seem overwhelming, and you wonder if you're ever going to get past where you are. It feels like that fire hose was turned on. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to absorb all of this information? But here you are, probably getting into a car, not even thinking a second thought of it, getting to your destination and thinking, wow, it's an automatic reflex for you now. You know exactly what to do. Now, remember when you were riding a bike, because you might be listening to this and say, hey, you know, Deb, I take a train. I don't drive a lot. So maybe I don't feel as proficient. So maybe perhaps you've ridden a bike. And if you've ridden a bike, you remember someone grabbing onto the seat and you're pedaling, looking forward, but you're also turning around, wondering if they're going to let go of the seat behind you as you're going. And you're putting that full trust that someone's still there. And then you realize that you're on your own. You're doing it. You are moving into action and you are becoming competent. And you're looking at the kids with training wheels and say, look at me. So there's a whole part of growth that we take for granted. How about when you tied a shoe? I remember in one of the coaching programs I was in, we had to talk about the 100 accomplishments that we've ever done. And we had to start as early as 0 birth of age. So think about it. You learned how to eat, you learned how to tie your shoe, you learned how to walk. And here, you know, I haven't met a child that just gets up and walks through the doors. So really, I want you to give yourself some grace, give yourself some kindness, and, you know, get a little bit of kick in your step and knowing that you're heading the right direction because you're willing to learn. You are moving into action. So there are times that you are proficient. You are moving into action and you are making things happen, but you don't stop to acknowledge some of those awesome things that you do. So that proficiency, because experts say, you know, it takes 10,000 hours to be considered an expert in a field. And when you follow coaches like myself or presenters and take different courses, you can accelerate that knowledge quickly. Now, really, when you're thinking about growth, often when people get frustrated or they feel like they've hit a wall, it can be because they haven't looked back to see how far they've come, but mainly they don't have realistic expectations. Now, when you're setting a goal for yourself, I want you to use the SMART goal method. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it realistic in the time frame that you have allotted this goal? Now, when you're thinking about that goal, I want you to get really serious and thinking about reverse engineering, planning those milestone celebrations, what areas you want to hit and really zone in on. So, and when I say unrealistic expectations, we hear of people who are like, well, I want a 6-pack abs in 1 month. Well, if you're starting from the couch, chances are you're not going to get that 6-pack abs in a month. Or pay off debt that was accumulated over years unless you win a lottery. How are you going to pay that overnight? Or an inheritance or something like that. So I want you to set up real expectations for yourself and know that when the effort comes intrinsically from yourself, wow, when you get to the part of being proud of yourself and feeling amazing, you're going to do some awesome things. But until you start to see that it takes several steps to get there in building that proficiency and celebrating who you have become in the process, it's not only about getting to the destination, it's the person you become on the journey while you're celebrating that success. So take time to recognize how awesome you truly are. Now, if I got you to step back and think about things that, those 100 things that accomplish from different time frames, from 0 to 5 or 5 to 10 and 10 to 15, you would be amazed at how many things that we take for granted. There are people in the world who might not be able to tie their shoe, drive a car, or ride a bike. And look what you've been able to do and what you get to do often. We take so much for granted in what we're capable of and how much more capable we can be and stepping into our potential. Now, of course, I want to leave you with some tips of really getting to recognize and celebrate that growth that you have. And of course, it starts with tracking your progress. So if you have a goal in mind, start tracking some progress, putting in some measurables. Because when you have measurables, what gets measured can get managed. You can tweak and adjust the course as you go, which is number 2. Adjust the course as you go, identify the gaps. And maybe there's some knowledge or skill or ability that needs to be filled, or you need to delegate something to get yourself onto that track of achievement. Remember, you don't have to go it alone. No one said you had to play the Lone Ranger and go off into the night and come back tomorrow with everything in place. You can delegate, you can collaborate with people, leverage strengths, and create amazing stuff. Now, finally, of course, I want you to be celebrating your wins, your successes. Often when we get stagnant, complacent, and not so fulfilled, it is often because we haven't taken the time to celebrate the successes that we've had along the way. And this is not uncommon. So right now, I want you to think about something in your life that you can look at the goal. Do you have a trackable, measurable goal? Is it realistic in the time frame that you've set it? And what are the celebrations that you can give to yourself? Maybe it could be a bubble bath, or you're going to reward yourself with a new book or a movie or going out for dinner with friends. Think about what you're going to do for you to honor yourself for reaching that milestone. It doesn't have to be huge. It could be that you just write in your journal or you do a happy dance and say, nailed it, and that you're making things happen. The hardest thing for anyone is to get started. But it's even harder for people to stay in consistent action, to keep that momentum, to keep that drive and moving forward. But it comes so much easier when you stop, you take time to recognize the growth that you have. Now, I want you to think about your personal growth plan. What do you have on your personal growth plan right now? What are you working on? If you don't have something on your plan, I want you to consider picking 1 to 2 things that you want to work on for at least the next 90 days. Now, experts will tell you to change a habit, you need to work on something for at least 66 days. And in my experience of 75 hard, I know that when you get to 75 to 90 and you can sustain it that long, what you've actually created is a lifestyle that it comes so naturally to you and it's ingrained into who you have become. Now, here's the thing. Here's different skills that I hear people are really focused on right now, is wanting to become more mindful, deeper listeners, better at conversation and connection. And perhaps you want to be a more empathetic listener or a better writer. Whatever it is for you, what you want to excel and grow in, I want you to consider that it takes that first step. And the hardest step is convincing yourself to move from all the excuses, all the reasons why you cannot do something, to the reasons why you can. And to be able to move yourself to the start line so that you can move forward and cross your own finish line. So think about your own personal growth plan. Make it so you can set up at least 90 days. Past that 66 mark, because you want to show yourself that this is a sustainable change, and start recognizing the growth that you have, how far you've come. Because when you can start to see that, you can see how much more potential you have and stepping out of the comfort zone. So you really need to acknowledge that. And I ask you again, take a step back. Look at how far you've come. You're not the same person you were 2 days ago, 2 months ago, let alone 2 years ago. Now, if you continue to challenge yourself in ways that help you step into your potential, become who you truly are, that's where the magic happens. That's where you are going to show up as your best self. And being able to recognize and celebrate yourself, but not only that, you're going to be able to celebrate others as well. Thank you for joining me here on the Millionaire Woman Show. Please go over to my website at www.debrakasowski.com. You can get your 3-part video course on making habits stick. And while you do that, please, if you're interested in coaching, send me a message. We'll set up a complimentary discovery call to see if we're the right fit and coaching is for you. Otherwise, I will direct you to other resources as well. As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you wish to see in the world and go out and make today great. And take that personal growth plan, celebrate yourself because you are worth it.